somebody in studio right now,
Very
Mr. Bob
good,
Davis
huh?
from the Loan Depot, that is telling people all the time, you're qualified, yay, congratulations, or we need to work on something to help get you qualified in a year or so. So Bob,
You
welcome
must
today.
listen to me all the time. I like that.
I listen to you.
Hey, Jim Duran, if you're still on there, dude, we're talking about you in just a few minutes, so don't hang off the radio, okay? By the way,
Don't
before we
hang
get
off.
started, hang off. I just made that up. If a gaggle of geese and a murder of crows are a group of those animals, what is a group of bears called? It's called a sleuth.
A sloop?
And how about cats? Now, my first thought for a group of cats was, doesn't happen, but there is a name for a group of cats, and it's called the clouder of cats.
Okay.
Now, what does that have to do with real estate finance?
Exactly.
Absolutely nothing. But I needed to share that with you because you guys had a recent loss in your family, and we just want you to know how much we give you our condolences and our care and our love, because it's just undescribable what you have to go through. So good for you.
It's exactly
Thank
right.
you.
And the little guys, they do take a place in our hearts. So thank you, Bob. We appreciate that.
You bet.
So,
Gaggle of geese, baby.
gaggle of geese. Let's start off by what is your NMLS number?
Thank you for keeping me legal. My NMLS number is 249185. And what that means is I'm actually federally licensed to do what we're talking about today.
And now Bob could talk about this stuff and not
And
have
not
to get in
geese.
trouble.
Not geese.
And
Not
not
geese.
geese. Not the gaggle. Anyway, we hear more and more people are trying to get loans, but they have huge debt. And I'm assuming that debt management is something that people really want to be aware of. So how important is that?
You know, your kindness and your thought is so accurate. However, most people not only don't want to manage or even be aware of their debt, they run away from it. I'm sure most people that have assets have an asset manager. It's either a 401k custodian, maybe a stockbroker, maybe a financial planner. But virtually no one in the marketplace, at least at this time that I come across, has a debt manager. Now, what we do is we help people understand how to either restructure their debt, or more specifically, how to create less of it and live a life that you're not worrying about that next payment. Debt management is something that is so difficult to explain on a general basis that what's important for folks to know that are listening in today, and I don't think Jimmy Duran has anything for you, brother, but maybe you have people that care about money, is what's so important is just recognize that if you have debt, what to do with it. Call me up. We can talk about it over the phone. I don't charge a fee for it. I was mired in debt more than once in my life. Everybody offered their assistance, and I never took their assistance. I never took their advice because I had this thing called pride. I occasionally still have pride, but that's a whole nother story. So debt management's a big deal. Reach out. I don't even have to see you. We can just talk on the phone, and let's see how your debt can be managed by you to save you a lot of money.
Bob, quick question, because you're talking about debt, and a lot of people will go, well, I'm not really in debt. Can we define what huge debt is? Because it's not what we all think, right?
Well, that's a great question. Take your income. What is your gross annual income?
Okay.
If you owe half of that in debt, you're in debt. Now, if you have personal debt, and I'm including student loans, car loans, consolidation loans, Visa, MasterCard, credit, my favorite, Kohl's. If you have that kind of debt, that is what we call liability debt, or let me be subjective. It's not good debt. Did you hear me? It's not good debt. Does that mean you're bad? No, it is not a subjective thing on you at all. The fact is, you built it up. It's not going to go away. If you have a loan on your house, or if you buy investment properties, or if you own investments that you financed, most probably I'm going to term that as good debt. Well, that also needs to be managed. And people in the mortgage industry like me usually only want to talk to you about your mortgage debt. Well, folks, going into the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to run into inflation, recession, and stagflation. And those things are going to eat your lunch if you don't understand how to manage your debt. Again, this is not a subjective, you're bad because you have debt. Join the club, kids. Join the club. But if you make $70,000 a year and you have $35,000 either in student loans, car loans, lease payments, credit cards, you're like all the rest of us. Let us show you how to simply manage that. It's a no-cost deal. It's not going to take a lot of time, and we're happy to follow up with you. But I will tell you that for every 20 people I talk to with debt management, barely one ever makes the second call. People usually don't have the guts to follow through to take advantage of information that will actually help them, because it's not easy. I repeat, it's not easy.
Okay, you threw out some terms, recession and stagflation. Technically, we are in a recession right now, but nobody wants to talk about that. So what does recession and stagflation do for real estate and the financing of real estate?
To make it really simple, because we don't have an hour and a half and you don't want to listen to the class that I teach, you can either listen to my podcast, and you can go to my, pop me an email and I'll send you where you can get the podcast. But we are currently in an inflationary time, and we will continue to be for the next year to year and a half. I said it, year to year and a half. It's not going to slow down, because it's just like moving the Titanic. It takes a while to adjust it. The recession that you just referred to, previous history tells us that after 2 quarters of negative gross domestic product in our country, we're in a recession. Well, whoever says that that's not a recession, that's their decision. But the fact is, a recession is when people start spending less money than they did before. A depression, which we are not headed towards, hear me on that. A depression is when you lose your job. Well, guess what? There's a lot of people in the next 2 to 3 years that think they have a really good job, and they will be calling Atharva because they will lose their job, because their companies are not going to be selling as much stuff, whatever they sell, as they are now or they have in the past. What does that really mean? Because the inflation will continue, and because the recession or the lack of spending by us consumers will continue for at least another 18 months, the dredge of that, the follow through of that, is going to run about 3 years, and we're going to be in a thing called stagflation, stagnant economy and inflation.
Mm-hmm.
The last time we had that was 1979 to 1982. And I know none of you are old enough to have been alive then, but I was in the real estate industry at that time. And you want to talk to me about that, listen to the podcasts.
Very good information. And email Bob if you want to find out where that podcast is.
That's Bob Davis at loandepot.com. Sorry.
Bob Davis at loandepot.com. If somebody is looking to invest in real estate, what would be a good plan for them to do?
You know, a plan in real estate is similar to that of when you set up to do your master's degree or your bachelor's degree. Or for us men, when we are looking for that woman, we go, ooh, I gotta make a plan for that. Seriously, it's
No, you're not far from the.
no,
far
it's
from the,
right.
yeah,
I happen to be a
right
man,
on.
and I happen to have done that.
Rosanna's
Anyway.
listening. She should relay.
If Mary's listening, honey, I did have a plan. I just didn't realize what it was. A plan in real estate is a longer term plan. You need to sit down with 3 professionals. Number 1, you need to sit down with a realtor, a professional realtor. Secondly, you need to sit down with an accountant and understand what owning a home does for you tax-wise. It actually could hurt you. Find out. Just find out. And then finally, you sit down with somebody like me, the mortgage guy. What's it going to cost? If you're going to be far enough away budgetarily not to buy for a year and a half, why does today's interest rates matter? They don't. And truthfully, I can discuss all the theory about economics as we can, but until you're in the market, you don't know. Talking to those 3 individuals within a week or 10 days of time, that's critical. That's the first step in the plan. And then a professional realtor will truly lead you. There are about 2,300 local realtors, and there is a much smaller amount of professional realtors. Find one and get that person in your back pocket for good.
That's really, really good advice. And those 3 professionals are who you really want to have in your back pocket when you're looking to invest in real estate. And unless you really have a lot of money, plan on taking some time with the 3 professions that Bob just talked about, so that when you do make that decision, it's the right decision for you.
When people, I'm glad you said it that way. When folks sit with us, and I do mean sit, not Zoom, not over the phone, boom, in person, the wealthier people spend more time with us than the people that are not. That's a hint, everybody.
I think the scary part for most people is you ask a lot of really personal questions, but
Yeah.
you need to know that information, referring to Bob, to be able to give them the right advice. So.
Can you imagine going to your accountant and not telling him what you make and what you spend? I mean, the fact is, relationship has to be built, trust has to be built, and I have a personal opinion that if I don't like you, I won't work with you. And that refers to vendors as much as it does to clients.
And I think that's most people's attitudes. So you also have a First Wednesday event that the Realtor Association does.
Actually, the Realtor Association is a great supporter of it, but First Wednesday is an event that I started in 2013. A friend of mine that works at a local title company, her name is Michelle Mueller, and I have started First Wednesday and have raised a little over $110,000 for different nonprofits since 2013. This next one is going to be at Pirano's downtown Ventura, September the 7th. For all men, it's First Wednesday. Just go with that, okay? Ladies, it's the 7th of September. 4:30 to 6:30 at Pirano's. They have kindly opened up the restaurant just for us. And what's going to happen is it's a cocktail party. Oh, is that a bad word to say?
Oh no, Pirano's make some really good cocktails.
Yes, they do. And they're going to provide, because they are so kind, they are going to provide food. You get to buy the drinks, but they're going to have great appetizers. We're going to be on the patio, and we're just going to have a good time, and we're going to raise money for the city center. Jimmy Duran, go baby, go. Because everything that night, we have sponsors. You'll be looking at it on Facebook. Just say thanks to the sponsors. And we're looking to raise at least a couple $1,000s for the city center that night.
Awesome. I know we'll be there because
you.
we love Pirano's and we love City Center, and we really love Jim Duran. And I just looked at a calendar, and we're available.
Good. Well, you're booked. By the way, it's $5 for everybody to come in. That's how it costs money, and 100% of the proceeds, not 100% of the net proceeds, 100% of the proceeds goes to the city center. And thanks for bringing that up.
And if you want to, I'm sure you can make a donation above and beyond.
Absolutely. There'll be a special raffle there. You'll find out about it when we're there.
So why don't you tell us how people get in touch with you, Bob?
Best way to reach me is through my email, bobdavis@loandepot.com, or my website, which is very conveniently named thebobdavis.com. You can always call me, but you know what? I never answer the phone because I'm usually in appointments.
Very good. Thank you for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
One thing I